story about the somewhat nebulous relationship between humans, my father-in-law, and nature, his goose, and me. My father-in-law was a character, to put it mildly. He was very eccentric, very intelligent, but had a lot of contradictions about him. He was married 6 times. Wow. He attracted a wide array of women, from a South African veterinarian who was a horrible racist to a barely literate, toothless woman living on welfare. He had something that women were attracted to. He was a radio and television repairman when he was working, and he was always very fascinated with gadgets. He always had the latest. He had caller ID before anybody had it. He had all these things. But he shunned modern comforts like indoor plumbing and running water. He lived in a trailer in northern Chester County, and he often had the doors open, and his various animals would go in and out of the house, some domestic, some wild. The second time I met my father-in-law, we were meeting at a restaurant, and we pulled up in the car, and he was out there, and I got out of the car, went to go hug him, and I reached out my hands, and he took his hands and went down my body with his hands like this. And I looked over at my husband, who was fumbling around for something in the car, so he completely missed it. And so the remainder of my relationship with my father-in-law was from a distance. I never allowed him to be anywhere near where he could reach out a hand and touch me. So in 2003, my father-in-law died at the age of 89, we think, or maybe 90, so I was a little vague about exactly how old he was. But my husband had to go up and clean out his things and take care of things, and he had to figure out what to do with the animals. So he found homes for the cats, and that left us with some chickens and a couple geese. And my husband called and said, do you think I could bring them home? I'll build a pen for them. I wasn't going to say, though I wanted to say no, and I was rolling my eyes on the phone. I thought maybe this was the connection my husband was feeling somehow through the animals. So I said, okay, you can bring them home. So he brought them home, only to discover that the chickens were all roosters. There were no hens. We weren't going to get any eggs. They were all roosters. And all they ever did was cock-a-doodle-doo, at 4 a.m. It was never... Fortunately, we live in an area where there's a lot of foxes, and so within a matter of time, one by one, the roosters disappeared. So that left us with Bonnie and Clyde, who were the 2 geese. And I didn't have much to do with them. My husband took care of them, fed them, gave them water, and one day he came in and said, Bonnie's acting peculiar. And I thought, I'm not sure how you know when a goose was acting peculiar, but he said, I think I'm taking her to the vet, which I thought was ridiculous. Rolling my eyes again, he took her off to the vet. It turned out that Bonnie had lead poisoning. And apparently, even though she was able to wander free on my father-in-law's property, she was probably gnawing on things that were in the yard, like washing machines with rust on them and various things he had out in the yard. So Bonnie didn't last too much longer. So that left us with Clyde. Now, around this time, I was going through some infertility issues. So one of my best friends is a reproductive endocrinologist in Maryland, and she said, why don't you come down to my practice? You can get treatment down here. So for about a week, I don't know if anybody's ever been through any kind of fertility treatments, but it involves a lot of visits to the doctor, monitoring, and that kind of thing. So for about a week, I was driving down to Silver Spring, Maryland every morning, very early, going to my job in Oxford, where I was a drug and alcohol counselor with adolescents, and coming home. So I was about 4 days into this, and I was very tired. I was driving home, and almost at my house, I'm on my road, and I see in the road what looks like a very short white something in the road, waddling in the road. And as I get, I'm kind of blinking my eyes thinking, am I having some kind of weird transference from working with these kids, talking about their drug trips? And I quickly realized that it's Clyde. And so I embarrassingly admit that my first inclination was to turn around and just go the other way and hope that maybe he found his way to the side or not. But I thought, oh God, I have to do something. So I pull over, I put on my flashers. Cars going both directions of the road also stop. They see what's going on. So I jump out of the car. I go over, I'm not sure how you corral a goose off of the road. My husband was home at the time. He realizes that Clyde's gotten out. So both of us are trying to get, meanwhile, people are watching this drama unfold. They don't know that I live there and this is our goose and this is my husband. So we finally get the goose over to the side of the road and people go off. And I turn around to go to my car when I feel something clamp onto my upper inner thigh, like almost my crotch. And I look down, and it's Clyde. clamping his beak on my leg. And I let out a scream. My husband lets out sort of something between a scream and a laugh. I'm sure it looked funny at the time. It was excruciatingly painful. I don't know if people realize, but a goose does have teeth, and in addition to teeth, has a row of, they're not teeth, but they're teeth-like on their tongue. So it was like having 4 serrated knives in a vice grip on my leg. So he gets the goose off. I go in. Miraculously, no skin is broken. So I thought, oh, this is good. So I go to bed, wake up the next morning to go down once again to the doctor and look down at my leg. And I have a bruise on my leg from my knee to my upper thigh that is dark purple, almost black. Looks horrible. So I go down to the doctor's appointment. I'm up on the table. My feet are in the stirrups. And the doctor looks down and says, "Dear God, what happened?" He'd just seen me the day before when I didn't have that. And I opened my mouth to start telling the story, and I said, you know, I think I had an encounter with my father-in-law last night. And he looks at me kind of like that, and I just kind of looked back and smiled, and he didn't ask me anything. I didn't tell him anything. And I got in my car to drive home, and I thought, sometimes things are just meant to be, nature is meant to be left alone. I should have just let it take its course, and the line between humans and nature is sometimes very blurry. Thank you.
Julie, everybody, great job.